Okay, let's pick up and just have the back of it here. I'm not going to start from the beginning because I won't get anywhere. Okay, okay. The mitzvah of rodef, okay, and the mitzvah is a normal mitzvah. That means there's a bona fide command, and you have to do something. It's not a din, okay. Lahatzil hanirdaf miyad harodef. Lahorgod. You have to save the rodef. I mean, you have to save the nirdaf from the rodef, and even if it means killing the rodef. No, excuse me, sorry, I didn't read it right. Lahatzil hanirdaf miyad harodef lahorgod. Someone is about to kill someone else, and you're allowed to kill the person who's trying to kill somebody else to save the life of the person who is being attacked. Kloima, shora mitzuvim la'arag harodef. And there's no, it's not a heter, it's a chiyuv. When we pointed out maybe ben noyach, it's only a heter. And the chiyuv is only im lo nucha lahatzil hanirdof ela bnefesh rodef. It's impossible lahatzil mecha mebo. V'omu yisale bekatzoises kapo leisochos ein. ולוש ספרי, מהמבושה מיוחד שיש בו סכנת נפשות, אבל הוא בקצוץ קאפו, כך כל דובר שיש בו סכנת נפשות, זה בכל בקצוץ קאפו. So it's לאו דווקא מבושה, it's any situation where there's סכנת נפשות. קצוץ קאפו מלמד שהוא חייב להצילו בקאפו. And if kapo is not enough, minayin shim eina toyochol latzilo b'kapo, shato chayiv latzilo b'nafsho. It's again chayiv. Tamalol v'sochos ein. So last week we pointed out that there is a lot. The Chazal seem to do two disparate things. First of all, we point out the story is very odd. Why is it such an odd story? And what we were trying to do is, therefore, Chazal learn from the same parsha two narratives. One narrative about Boishes and one narrative about Rodef, and they're both Kayim, and therefore it has this strange narrative in order that you should be able to have both narratives in the story. Okay. And one narrative is about Rodef, and the other narrative is about Boishes. And we discussed that last week. Okay. Next. Here, let's go on. So the Ram says, see, here's an amazing thing. Minayin she'im eina toyochol latzilo b'chapo she'ato chayv latzilo b'nafsho tamaloi v'lei sochos eincho. The important thing is, it never says in the Torah that you kill her. It doesn't say. It says you just cut off a hand. So if you're just cutting off a hand, how do we know the Aseh? It says the Ram says the Aseh is to kill her. So what happened here is an amazing thing. It says loisochas einecho, which is a separate lav, and loisochas reish harigimel. It's a lav that if you see a rodef, to have achmanis on him and not kill him. Okay. So the Rambam, in the name of the Sifri, because that's the Sifri says, to minayin שאם אין אתה יכול להציל בכפו, שאתה חייב להציל בנפש, אתה אמור לסוחס אין. Okay. So we're learning from the lav that the Aseh is to kill, which is really nuts, because lav means nuts to do something. So the question which one has to ask is, how do you learn a mitzvah say from a lav l'sochus alein lochus al. So I assume what the Sefer is saying is that there's an assumed mitzvah, because there can't be a lav to not kill him unless you're supposed to kill him. The lav is impossible to stand without it say that you have to kill him. So there's an amazing thing going on that you don't need a aseh mefurish in Torah shebiksav, but if you can derive it from the mashmos of the lashon that you're supposed to do something, you can derive from a lav an aseh, which is an amazing thing. It's a svara, which is based on Torah shebiksav, says you shouldn't kill him. So the only way you can interpret it is that you have to kill him. Okay, now, so the amazing thing is what comes out is you don't need a aseh mufurish in the Torah. But if you can interpret, you extrapolate and infer from a text that you have to do something, that's enough. Okay. I only have one thing over here to ask. One can come and make a statement, I'm not sure if it's true, that maybe no, you can't derive from this that an implied aseh is good enough. You need aseh mefurish. However, if you have a mefurish aseh, maybe you can expand the aseh to include that which is implied or inferred, that which you can infer from the text in the Torah, even though there's no explicit aseh. But an influence by itself is not enough to make an aseh, but an influence can expand an aseh. So if there hadn't been an aseh of a katsoises kappa, you could never have made the influence of leisokas eincha as an aseh. So therefore, the Ram quotes the pasuk over here. He says, of a katsoises kappa leisokas eincha. Once you have katsoises kappa, then you can use it as an influence. Maybe by itself it's not enough. The same way, or a similar vein, not necessarily the same thing at all, that Briskelov says, that even the Ram says in Sheni, you cannot extrapolate an aseh from Midas Atera or a mitzvah of Midas Atera, But if you have a mitzvah, you might be able to expand the mitzvah through midas hatayra. That's what I want to suggest. This is a very important thing. Is it mean here that it's enough, or it's only because there's a makatzosis kappa? Okay. Next. Then the text continues. Hine kvois boilecho, in atzivu hazeh, u'she'omru, eshes ho'echod, that it's the wife of one of the people, one of the adversaries. They're in the middle of a fight. Omnam dibe behoive, or there's the couple shows loy dibe ela behoive. So in Ibn Tibin and the Ibn Iyov is omnam dibe behoive, or it's loy dibe ela behoive. But this is the normal case. Why would someone come to save unless it was a husband, I guess? Ba'kavona, he להציל הנרדף באיבריו של רודף. ואם אי אפשר להצילו, כי אם במיסה רודף, בפעם אחת, I don't understand what פעם אחת means. It's legamre. I don't understand what that means either. It means once you say misa rodef, whether it's בפעם אחת or legamre, you can't kill. There's no, you kill him in ganzen in legamre, or you kill him basa pama. I don't know what that means. If it says misa rodef, that's enough. Everything is superfluous. Im ki im b'misa rodef b'pam achas, whatever it means, yalgeu. Okay, now, next. I don't want to talk about this now. And I just want to point out that there's a phenomenon, and I don't understand it 100%, but we find it in two places. We find it here, and we find the mitzvah Kiddush Hashem. What is the phenomenon? The mitzvah of Rodef is not only in Rodef Acher Ha'odom L'Holgoi, but it's also in another case. It's in the case of Rodef Acher Elbo L'Bola. And that's the whole sugya. That's the whole sugya of Rodef Acher Elbo. The Rambam quotes it not over here, but he quotes it in the Loisase, which is an amazing thing. He does the same thing in the mitzvah Kiddush Hashem, because in the mitzvah test of Kiddush Hashem, he only mentions the case of Yehogav Yavo, of Anas. However, in the Loisase of the Chalos Hashem Kochi, he mentions the other cases of a person is not doing an avera, lahachis is boiroi, or he stops, or kiddush Hashem, where he doesn't, he controls himself, or a chacham, the way he should act differently than a regular person. He talks about the expanded version of the mitzvah say only in the lav, the same way he does it over here, that he talks about the expanded version of this Aseh that applies to Elva, only in the Loisis, which is very odd. The question is the conclusion about this, or what the Rambam wants. So Loisis Reish Tzadi Gimel. An Aveil, which the Kavon is Limod B'Hashem, is also Chil Hashem. And if an Odom Godel does a Maisa that seems, that appears to be an Aveira, B'nei Hamoy, B'nei the general public, that's also Chil Hashem. And the Ram discusses that only in the Lav, not in the Aseh. Okay. Next. Now, so I'd like to explain this line. V'efshel latziloi, ki im b'midas aleidei b'pam achas yahargeu. You should kill him. So, what is the purpose of this Hatzalah? Are we interested in saving the Nirdaf, saving his life? That's the pashtus. But there's another possibility. They were interested in preventing a Ma'aseh. Now, we'll see about that soon, okay? And you understand that more when you're talking about Ervo, maybe it's the Isa with Tzicha, because Domim was the want to stop. Or maybe you could say that Aligas Aleidei is an Einish on the Redifal Gazulas, to that you are running to kill someone. It's an Einish. You wanted to kill somebody else. So let's explain each option and what the issues might be. So the first option is to stop the killing of the Nirda. The Rambam in this mitzvah and Tosis and Hedron, Ayin Gimel and Aleph, the Ramaschu Man Na'ara, seem to say pashtus that this is Hatzolah of the Nirda. And once you say like that, we interpret Elva, that Elva is to save the Isha from the Pagam, she's nivelis. But that is only found in Tesis, and the Ram over here doesn't quote Elva, and he says that's all. So we don't know exactly, how the Ram is going to integrate this, but Tesis in Sanhedrin clearly says that Elv is the same thing, and it's an issue of stopping the Pagam. You can learn this approach would be supported possibly by the fact that a cotton could be a rodef, even though a cotton's not a Baal Einshin. And however, the rodef cotton is nerag. And the reason is that it's Hatzolos HaNirdof. But this you could be doich. We'll see. This approach, you find the Yad in Hedron, Ayin Beis and Beis. Tivir Maschom Ravuna, Cotton Agoyde Veschaveru Lahogoy, Nitan Latzila Nafshay. He says the following: Ve'avagat the cotton la barinchinu la mishum chiyuv didei who the cotton lays befuish elo mishum hatzolodei. It's not because of an English of a Maisa Avera, it's Hatzolos, Hanilda. So therefore you kill a cotton. You find also in the Kvegin Ksuvis, Nam Gimur Beis, Kovet Shurim, and Cheli Beis, Simen Yud. Second approach. The Ram Minyan HaMitzvos, the second approach is that it's Menias or Yemonea, you're trying to stop the Rodef from doing Ma'aseh Avera. The Rambam in Minyan HaMitzvos, in Lois Reish Tzadi Gimel, explains, or you see it clearly there, that Arigas HaRodef is to Meneya the Rodef from doing a Ma'aseh Avera. Because he writes there in Reish Tzadi Gimel, V'chayvu oleinu shenimna nehu me'asois ma sheliboy misaver v'neitzaloi k'dei lemon oi min ho'avera. It's a whole different world. It's not Hatzolos HaNirdof. It's a meniya for Ma'aseh Avera. Another option is that Harigas HaRodef is an oynish on the Adifa larog his friend or his whatever the other person, the Nirda. In Mishnah Torah, the Rambam is mashma that Harigas HaRodef is an oynish before the Ma'aseh Avera. The Rambam writes the din rodef in Perek Aleph of Hilchos Riseach, which means a nefesh. This is the Perek of Oynish HaRotzeach. He's talking the Chiyuv of Rotzeach. In the middle of the discussion, he talks about rodef. So maybe from the position that the Rambam writes it, juxtaposition of the Inyonim, maybe and maybe that he's equating the Oynish of Rotzeach to the din of Rodef. And he writes in Aloch Vav, Bamed Dvorim Amurim, B'she'ovar v'oser oboin shechayiv olov misas bezdin. Avol roidech hachaveiroi lahogoi, he hasn't done the avera yet. Afilo hoya roidech cotton, hari kol yisrael mitzvum lahatzil hanirdof miyad haroidech. Afilo nafshe shel haroidech. So the question is, the mean an oynish? You look at there and also at Aloch Zayin over there in Perek Aleph, Lotzech Shmiras Nefesh. V'im einon yechol lechaved v'lo lehatziloi elim kein haguhu l'roidef arei elu hogin oisai v'af al pi shadayin lohog. What's af pi shadayin lohog? What's the af al pi? If it's Hatzolah, the af doesn't make any sense. If an oynish, but beforehand, then you say apapi, even if you didn't do the ma'aser avera, it was still manish. Sheneva, because this couple loy sochos it. The mashmos of the Ramban is that it's an oynish. Because the Ramban brings the case of Tnai, he says, the case is Harigis Aloidev. And it seems to be clear for the Ramban that it's an oynish. The Ramban Nasogis is Shurish Beis. Umefurish Amru, Bigmor Sanhedrin, it's ein Gimel and Aleph, Eloidef Achachaveo Lahogoi, Niten Latzilo Nafsho Menolon, Kalvachaim, Minam Ulosa. V'chi Oinchim and Adin, Ekeshahu. This Tana Devei, Rebbe, Kikashe Yokum, Ish Areu, Votzoch, Kein Adov Azeh, V'chi Malo Madnu Loitzech Beato. And this is the din of ein shimon adin. So you assume it's an oynish, I guess. And the Osameach learns like that. Hilchos Utzechas Ushmiras HaNefesh, Perek Aleph Halacha Yud Gimel. We explained already that the best raya that it's only hatzolo is because you kill a cotton rodef. However, and a cotton is not about reinshin, not about. So, but according to Rab Chaim, as the Rav explained, Rab Chaim took the it was a clear postulate by him that a cotton's ma'aser avera is a ma'aser avera, but it's only the cotton is part of reinshin. If you go like that, he has the raya. There are many rayas to this. Rayas the Gemara, rayas the Rambam. So if that's the case, you can take the position that Harigis Aloidev is Meniya. From a ma'aser avera, because the cotton's ma'aser is a ma'aser avera. Mike. There are many rayas to Rab Chaim. That cotton's ma'aser is a ma'aser avera. The Rambam, the Rambam in Chishkogos, that's the raya that he brought, Perek Tes Halacha Gimel, Teisha Shonim B'Yom Ben Teisha Shonim B'Yom Echad, a boy who's 9 years old, Shabbat Shib Chalufa, he loike, who may be called. So when does he bring the korban? V'yoli sheinu maybe achi yagdil. V'yiyeh ben das. He's not mechuyev until later. But the ma'aser avera caught as a ma'aser avera. Otherwise, Rak is only two of Moinchin. But later on, he should bring the korban. Because that was nischadish in Bolashim Chalufa, that the ma'aser avera of a cotton is tuna kapora, but it's only Mishiyagdil. That's what he learned. Rab Chaim. That's what the Rav said over Rab Chaim. But this idea that a ma'aser avera is a ma'aser avera, it's in the Gemara. Because the Gemara is in Hedron and the name of Beis. Omer v'yosef toshma b'ashol zhom v'yechod v'im bo aleho echad mikol haroyis amuz b'teira mumsin al yodo be p'tura. So it says, I'm skipping a little bit, Kiva the mizidihi takolanami ika, v'achmonuhu techas alo. Allah, I'm skipping. So, what does it mean, chas alo, unless the ma'asavera? But the better guy is, from Ben Teshi Yom Echad, it says there, Vim bo arachas v'kol rosh b'teira, mumsin al yodai, b'chuli, I'm skipping, kiv the mezid hu, takola nami ika, v'achmona hu dechas ale. So means takola means there's, l'chol the takola in both cases means the mais avera. The cotton has a takola. So achmona dechas ale. The mais avera, but cotton is a mais avera. Next. Now, okay, so there, this is okay. It's we had all the options. We discussed what the issues are. Now I want to add something. It's a very interesting Rambam in Hilchos Sefer Shmiras Nefesh, Perek Aleph, Halacha Tes. Harizu mitzvos leisaseh, shlolochus al nefesh harודף. The leisaseh and not to have lachmanis, okay? Then it says, Lefikoch hu chachomim sheho ubro shehi makshe leiled, a pregnant woman who is giving birth, mutter lachte chouba me'eho bein besam bein biyad. In a case of where the child is endangering the mother's life, there is a heter of a therapeutic abortion. Mipnei mutter lachte chouba me'eho bein besam bein biyad mipnei shuhu kerodef achreho logo. He is like a rodef. The mishahoitzi roishoy ain't doigen boy. She ain't doigen nefesh minei nefesh. V'zehu tivo shalolo. So you kill before he sticks his head out, but afterwards you don't kill. The achronim discuss this of Chaim, Barichus, and especially in Chedusha of Chaim Alevi on that Rambam. Okay, that's the Rambam. I just want to talk about the Rambam. You look at Rab Chaim, you look at whatever you want, and I just haven't just share an idea. Isn't the Rambam's opinion that Hatzolas Hanirdof from the Loidev is a mitzvah say and a loisa say, and it's a chiyuv. And the hatzola of the mother from the uber is only a heter and not a chiyuv, because the Ram says mutter lach. Because it's mutter to kill the child in order to save the mother's life. That's one question. How can he say it's Rodef when he just said before that Rodef, he said, is a mitzvah say and a mitzvah say? So why, how can he say it's mutter? And then another amazing question. If you look at the Lashon, it's almost impossible to read because it's lefikach haru chachamim. What's haru chachamim? The mitzvah of Rodef is the rice, it's not the haru chachamim. So I would suggest the following. The Rambam learned in the Gemara in Sanhedrin, and Ayin Beis Mabeis, that it says, Mishmaye korat lo, that the pshat is that there's no redifa. If Chaim talks, you look in the Sefer, okay? That you don't look at the child being redif the mother. So since Mishmayim koratfa, there's no mitzvah say and loisa say redif. And therefore the Rambam was medaktek to write mi b'nei shehu, the uber, ki redif, with a chafadimya. And he's not a redif mamish. And therefore there's only a heter. And that heter was a lost chachamim learned from din redif, but it's not a real redif. Since Mishmayim Korat, for there's no Aseh there, there's just the heter. And maybe the Chacham learned the heter from Benoyach, because in Benoyach, it's only a heter to kill the redif. Imenu yochel latzil b'yachamei v'olam. The Rambam, and you look at the Rambam in Hilchos Malachim, Milchamois, Perek Tes Halacha Dalet. Also, the same din in a Leda. There's no mitzvahs Rodef, and the Omu Chachamim is the Mechadesh, even Yisrael, there is a situation that there's a heter, and also there's no lav of Leisaman Adam Re'echa in this situation, because one person is getting killed. And the way the halacha is written is a little bit odd, because Kilu, he starts the halacha with a lois aseh, and then he talks about lefikach to do with the lav. So if you look at the kisvei yad, the real halacha, the way the Ram had the ksav yad, was before the fikach, and it goes in both the aseh and lois aseh, because of the halacha, the mitzvah of Rodef we can extrapolate not only the law but the Aseh also. That you can extrapolate this ahead. One more point. The Rambam in Hilchos Chayvul Mazik in Perches Halacha Tezvov Osfina shechoshvel ishover mikover amasu, that the sfina is about to topple or turn over because of the dead weight on the sfina. V'omar echad mehen v'hekil me'amasi, and he throws things out of the boat. V'hishlich biyam potter, he is potter from paying for the masa which he threw away. Shamasa shebo, the masa in the svina is k'moredef achreim lahogo u'mitzvah rabo also shehishlich v'hoishiyom. So this whole comparison is a little bit odd. We have no idea what he's talking about. But if Rodef is an Indian from Hatzolah and nothing to do with a Ma'aseh Aveira, we might understand somewhat the comparison of the Kovet. Okay, next. Now, next mitzvah. Reish Mem Ches. HaMitzvah Hashmone V'Arboim Mosayim. 248. Ramach, which is the minion from Evorim, which is the end of the last mitzvah say. He HaTeira Shoreinu. So this is very clear here, is one of the few times that the Targum is the proper Targum, because the Targum is a Targum of Shrano, and it's HaTeira Shoreinu. It's not a Tzivui, and it's very strange that the Tilgum, they sometimes interpret Shrana as a Tzivui, and sometimes interpret as a Rod. It's very odd that they should go mix and match. You have no idea when you read in the Arabic what the Ksaviyat is. It becomes very confusing. Okay, next. So it's not a mitzvah gila, and there's no kiyum mitzvah, as we mentioned in Chaschin. Okay, now. He says, Shorenu and the Bedinej Nachlos, Boama, Ish Kiyomus, Ubein Ein Loi, Begoyme. Ish Kiyomus, Ubein Ein Loi. Now, the Rushas Haben, is not mentioned at all in the Parsha. But it's a postulate upon which the whole Parsha is based. So it's an amazing thing. The Parsha says in Bein Ein Loi this and this and this. But the mashmos is that if there is a ben, the ben is Yerush. See here, you have a mashmos of a mitzvah by the ben, but it's not mefuish, and if it's learned from a shlila. If it's not this, then, but if it is ben, then he would get. And here also, you don't know if he could have postulated a sharanda based on that, or since there's a whole pasha of Yerusha, which includes many different dinim, you can add this din on from the clear influence of the pasha. Okay, now if you look at the pasha of Yerusha, it follows Chalukas Haaretz, and it's based on a discussion from the Bnei Slavchot. And you could have imagined from the juxtaposition of everything that it's really only Harashah. But that you can't do. Because at the end of the parasha it says, V'yimein achim le'oviv, u'nesatim es nachlosoi, l'she'ero hakol ve'lov, v'mishpachta, v'yorashoisa, v'hoyisa v'nei Yisrael, l'chukas mishpat, kashet tziva Hashem es Moshe. And chukas mishpat is a mitzvah l'deires. And l'chor you can learn out that it's not dafka in Chalukas Haaretz, but it's a mitzvah of Seder Nachlos. And that Ramban al Torah says very clearly, V'tam v'hoyisa v'nei Yisrael l'chukas mishpat, sheyiyeh ha-mishpat hazeh l'deires, v'loi b'nachlos haaretz ato bilvad. It is a mitzvah of days. Let's continue. Umichlal din zeh b'loi sofek. Dramam heyois habachor yoish pishnayim. So you could have had, the Ram says you shouldn't have a suffix about it, but he could have imagined someone had, and he says you shouldn't. Because the Ramban says that it's not Mechlal mitzvah, but it's a separate mitzvah of Yakir. And the Ram is coming to say, no, it's not a separate mitzvah, it's part of this mitzvah. Umechlal din zeh, v'loi safek, heyois habachor yoish pishnayim. Shezeh mishpat mi-mishpatei ayoshim. The din of the Bechor is Yois Pishnayim is Bdiני Yerusha. And it's not a separate mitzvah. Ukva is by mishpat. Mishpatei mitzvah zo, b'shmini uchi mi-basra. Basra. So this parsha of Bechor is written in a completely different place than the parsha of Yerusha. Parsha Yerusha Bnei Slavchot. And there's a separate parsha Kiseitze. V'hoyo biyoim hanchilo esbono es asher yiyeh lo yuchal levaker es bein o ahuvo as ben or ahuvo, the ben, ben of the beloved wife, al pnei ben asnua, habachor, because the bachor, ki, as a bachor ben asnua, yakir, losses lo pishnayim, cholashi motziloi, hu, ki hu reishis oinoi, loi mishpara bachor. Now, Okay. Now, let's look into the Ramban and understand what the Ramban's saying, and maybe the Rambam in context of the Ramban. The Ramban is interesting. The Ramban is in the mitzvahs loisa session shocharav, mitzvah yud beis, the 12th mitzvah that the Rambam forgot in mitzvahs loisa session. According to the Rambam, there's only one mitzvah, which we said, which is called Mishpatei Ayusha B'Bechira. This mitzvah is a shrana, and it includes all mishpatei, all the mishpatim of this mitzvah, the mitzvah of Bechira and the mitzvah of Nachlis, and it's all one thing. The Ramban disagrees. The Ramban disagrees with the Rambam, and he assumes that Yerushas HaBechor is a separate loisase. Lo yuchal levakes ben ahuva al pnei ben asnu HaBechor, and also a separate aseh. Ki es HaBechor ben asnua yatir lo says loy pishnayim. The Rambam agrees with the Ramban that a loisase can't be a shrana. You can't have a loisase as part of a shrana. And this we explain. That's why the lavim in the pasha of Yifastei are separate lavim. And the lavim in the pasha Seita are separate lavim. Here also, the lav in the pasha of Nachlos or Yerusha should be a separate lav. The machlokes, the Rambam is, and the Ramban is not whether it should be a separate lav, but what the lo means. If lo means he shouldn't, the Rambam also agreed it's a separate lav. But the Rambam learns that lo means it can't. You don't have the ability. Lo yuchal levakir as ben or ahuva. You can't do it. And then once you do that, it's the prate dinim of Yerusha, and it's not a separate ashola. It's only a shlila. It's not, and the shlila is not minyan mitzvahs, as the Rambam points out in Shirish Chi. So it's just not that he's enjoined from giving a chelik of the bechira to another person, but it just can't do it. But the Ramban learns that there's an ashola. And l'cheira, if you look at the Ramban, he quotes the Sifri, and the Sifri is a clear raya that not only is a shlila, it's also an ashola. But once it's an ashola, it's a separate mitzvah. Even if the mitzvah is a shrine, it doesn't make a difference. Okay, next. According to the Ramban, once there's a loisaseh, separate lois aseh b'chol, you can learn that the aseh of yakir kies a b'chol ben asnua yakir is a mitzvah, is a separate mitzvah, and it's a mitzvah regila. It's not a din. And it's not, once it's a mitzvah regila, it's a bona fide tzivui, then it's certainly not included in the shrana. And it's a similar thing. Remember that if you have an aseh and a lav in the same subject matter, sherishishi, you count the lav separate and the aseh separate. So according to Ramban, there's a lav to do, not to do something, and aseh to do something. And it's not a shrano, it's an amar, it's a bona fide mitzvah of to do something, command. Whereas according to the Rambam, the lav is a shlila, and the yakir is also shrano, and you embody in the mitzvah all the different dinim. That is the simple pshat in Ramban. Now, let's do just a few ha'oros and just understand things a little better. The Ramban doesn't bring yakir in the mitzvah seisha shocharav, he brings it in the mitzvah loises shocharav. And the question is, why doesn't he bring in the mitzvah seisha shocharav? Mitzvah seisha shocharav. So the answer is simple. If it was only a mitzvah say by itself, we would have said that it's a shrana, and it's a chelik of the shrana of נחלות. But after there's a lois aseh to not to be makir b'chol, we say that the aseh which goes along with it is a mitzvah regila and a separate mitzvah. The Ramban, in the beginning of his discussion, assumes the mitzvah of yakir is only an isa aseh, not a kumba aseh. But later on, he writes that you look at there on your base, he says that it's not only an isa aseh, but it's a kumba aseh also. So maybe the Ramban means that even if you assume the Rambam doesn't count an isa say minyan mitzvahs, he should count this one because it's not only an isa say, it's a kumba say. And therefore, even according to the Rambam, it should have been minyan mitzvahs. The Ramban doesn't bring a raya that Yaakov is a separate mitzvah from the fact that it's a separate parsha from נחלות. It's two separate and a separate dinim. Because Yerusha is bein b'muchzak, bein b'roi, and B'chor is only b'muchzak. And the Rambam is mechalik mitzvahs in Kuf Yud Zayin of Eichim, the 4 separate mitzvahs, separate parshas, separate dinim. But that's because the Ramban learns that chiluk parshas is only a reason to mechalik dinim. But over here, since the Ramban learns that Yaakov is a mitzvah regila, he doesn't have to. This is not the approach to make it into separate mitzvah. Mitzvah Hashem will pick this up next week.